He didn't even notice the shift at first. There was no dramatic music, no cinematic moment to mark the beginning. It was quiet, almost imperceptible, like a fog lifting slowly from a familiar path. At first he just felt a little lighter when she was around. Not euphoric, not head over heels, just calm. It's a kind of calm that makes you breathe a little deeper without realizing. The noise in his head, the constant calculations, the need to perform, they all softened. She hadn't done anything grand. She didn't try to stand out. But something about her presence made his inner world feel less cluttered. For once, he didn't feel like he had to wear armor. He felt seen without being judged, and that did something to him. It wasn't about her appearance, her status, or any checklist. It was about how he felt in her space. It wasn't love. Not yet. It wasn't even clear attraction. It was something older, quieter, an emotional impact he couldn't define. She wasn't impressive in a way the world applauded, but she was felt deeply, like a familiar song you didn't know you missed. It confused him, made him question what he really valued. He couldn't put it into words because he didn't fully understand it himself. But slowly, without effort, she became the calm in the middle of his chaos. And that's where it started. Not with fireworks, but with stillness. A stillness that felt like home. It's the kind that made him want to linger. Longer in conversations that made him pay attention to how he was changing quietly from the inside out. She wasn't trying to change him. She didn't even know she was doing anything at all. But she was the first thing in a long time that felt different. And he was already beginning to fall. As time went on, something unexpected began to happen. He started noticing the world through her. Not just noticing her, but seeing how she saw things, how she moved through life with a quiet presence that shifted his own. He found himself watching the way her eyes lingered on small, beautiful moments that others overlooked. A child laughing, the way tree branches swayed in the wind, the sound of birds before sunrise. Things he usually walked past without a second thought now felt like invitations to slow down. She never told him to change. She didn't preach about mindfulness or presence, but her way of being showed him another rhythm, one that made him want to pause and see what she saw. It was in the way she reacted to others, too. Her patience. When someone was rude, her laughter at things most found unremarkable. The way she carried herself when no one was watching. That's when he started admiring her, not for how she looked or spoke, but for how she lived. He found himself thinking about the values behind her actions, the intention behind her calm. He wasn't analyzing her anymore. He was simply drawn. In her worldview, inspired something in him. It grounded him. It made him want to be better, not for her, but because he saw what was possible through her eyes. She reminded him that life didn't have to be a race. It was okay to just be. And that kind of influence, that kind of emotional imprint is rare.
Oh.
He didn't realize it then, but something in him had already shifted. The more he saw the world through her lens, the more he wanted her in it. Not just as a companion, but as someone whose presence made life more meaningful, more vivid, more real. He didn't mean to pull away. It wasn't a conscious decision. One day, everything felt peaceful and full of promise. And the next, he was questioning it all. Doubting his own emotions. Wondering if what he felt was real or just a trick of the moment. That's the thing. Most people don't understand when a man starts falling. Fear creeps in right beside the feelings. Not because he doesn't care, but because he does. Caring makes him vulnerable, and vulnerability, for him, has never come without risk. So, he retreats. He overthinks. He tells himself to slow down, to focus on other things, to protect what he's always guarded. Maybe he talks to other people, flirts mindlessly, or distracts himself with work.
Ow.
But none of it feels right anymore. Because when he's with her, something inside him softens. The layers begin to peel back, and that scares him more than he expected. He spent years building walls, routines, and emotional distance. She didn't ask him to change. She just made him feel safe enough to consider it. That safety challenges everything he thought he needed to maintain control. But slowly, the need to control starts losing its grip. He begins to crave clarity instead. Not games, not ego. Just truth. He wants to know if this connection is real, if she's genuine, if what he's feeling can be trusted. The idea of emotional risk is still terrifying, but it's no longer enough to keep him distant. The desire for clarity begins to outweigh his instinct to run, and that's where love begins to take root. Not in grand declarations, but in the quiet decision to stop pulling away. In the choice to lean in just a little and see what's possible. When control is replaced with truth, something began to shift in how he listened. It wasn't obvious at first, not even to him. But slowly, his focus moved from what he wanted to say to what she was actually saying. He began noticing the little things, the pauses between her words, the tone of her voice when she mentioned certain people, the way her eyes dimmed when she talked about her past. He listened not just with his ears, but with his whole presence. It wasn't about fixing her problems or offering advice. It was about understanding her world, seeing it through her emotions, not just her words. He started paying attention to what she didn't say, how she hesitated before changing the subject, how she used humor to cover something deeper, how her silence sometimes spoke louder than anything else. Before, he might have missed these things, too busy trying to impress or prove his worth. But now he was curious in a way that felt new. He wanted to know her, not just the version she showed the world, but the version that was hidden beneath the surface. The more he understood her fears, her dreams, her pain, the more his own heart opened. Empathy started replacing ego. He wasn't just falling for the way she looked at him. He was falling for the parts of her that she tried to keep guarded. And in that deepening understanding, something powerful happened. He didn't just feel love, he felt responsibility. Not the kind that weighs you down, but the kind that makes you want to protect something rare. When a man starts truly listening with intention, with emotion, it means he's already half gone, not lost, but found. Because through hearing her, he was also hearing parts of himself he'd long silenced. And in that space, love was already quietly blooming. It happened slowly, almost without him noticing. One day he caught himself laughing differently, freer, lighter, like something heavy had quietly lifted. And he realized that version of himself only came out when he was with her. She didn't just make him feel good. She made him feel real, like he could stop performing. Like he didn't have to filter his thoughts or hide behind sarcasm or detachment. Around her, he became someone softer, someone more grounded, more alive. And that realization startled him. Because once he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. There was a version of him unguarded, vulnerable, honest, that only she seemed to awaken. And once that part of him was exposed, even just to himself, he became protective of it. Not because he was afraid of her, but because he didn't want to share it with anyone else. Not anymore. The idea of casual conversations or surface level connections with other people suddenly felt hollow. He didn't want to flirt just to feel validated, didn't want to entertain empty attention. He didn't want to dilute the connection they had by spreading pieces of himself elsewhere. And when she wasn't around, it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like static, like something essential was missing. Everything functioned. He worked, socialized, kept up appearances, but nothing felt as vivid. Her absence wasn't painful in the dramatic way love songs describe. It was quieter than that, but persistent. Like a hum in the background he couldn't tune out, and in that quiet discomfort he found clarity. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about who he was with her. And the truth was simple. He liked that version of himself, trusted it, needed it. And that's how he knew he had already fallen deeper than he ever planned.